Or let's do it. Hey, Divinely Grateful Risings, y'all. Happy New Year. I hope y'all are doing fantastic, having a fantastic day. Y'all know I just be listening to what the Most High be telling me to do. So the title of this, When I Woke Up. So listen, y'all. Content and things are getting ready to change on my channel because that's what God told me to do. Okay, so last night he had me up till almost 2 o'clock in the morning. He and I were talking, and I was chopping up spirit and them and just talking about different things that have prompted this new awakening that I have had, right? So a lot of us go through these spiritual awakenings. We go through these dark nights of the soul, and we wake up. We wake up to the truth of who we are. We wake up to the truth of God. We wake up to the truth of our destiny, our purpose. And so over this past month or so, I've really had like a lot of awakening that has happened. But when I what I realized is that I wanted to know like what prompted this awakening for me. And what prompted this awakening for me was really putting boundaries in place. Okay. I kid y'all not. It is so crazy. Putting boundaries in place. Okay. Because I realized that I was going back and forth on some things that Spirit and them had been tried to remove out of my life. One of those things was going back to people, places, and situations that no longer served me in periods and times of loneliness, or feeling like things aren't going right, or things, feeling depleted. When we feel a certain type of way, child, we will go back to old things that we have done, right? So what I realized was that I found myself entertaining, that's a good word. Look, I found myself entertaining things, people, places that God had already forcefully removed out of my life. Okay, forcefully, y'all. Like it wasn't. It was like when, and this happened at the beginning of this year. Well, yeah, because at the end, this was in like February, that God was like, "This is done. This is over. You need to be done with it." But I found myself going back, and this is specifically speaking to a relationship, right? Or so it was like I found myself going back and replaying and revisiting relationships that I had already, that he had already told me, like, if you don't get your ass on, okay. And this was no fault of the people who the people that these relationships were with. This was simply me. So my last spiritual awakening, which I'm literally coming out of message right now, was prompted by me putting boundaries in place with myself and saying, you know what, this hurt me. And every time I revisit this situation or revisit a relationship, it ends up hurting me again. Like I'm ripping a band-aid off, and now all of a sudden I was facing the same feelings and emotions and thoughts that hurt me in the first place. And it put me back in a mindset of where I was having to bring myself back out of that. So people talk about, like, want to know what's a spiritual awakening? What does it consist of? Well, for me, it was waking up to me and telling myself the truth and saying, self saying, why are we going back through this pattern? Why are we repeating this when we already know how it's going to end, right? I tell y'all all the time, when spirit remove things, people, places, and things out of your life, sometimes it's meant to go. Okay, in that time, it is meant to go. So me putting up boundaries with myself and with other people are what made me have this real spiritual awakening. As a result of me putting these boundaries in place, and I'm gonna tell y'all, back in the day, listen, it would take me a month of Sundays to finally say, okay, you know what, I'm done with something. Child, I didn't went years and years and years without putting something to bed and saying, okay, I'm done with it. Okay, multitude of things, be it relationships, drugs, alcohol, what have you, right? And so there were a series of things that have happened over this year where I realized, like, I was trying to go back to something, to go back to who I used to be. And I finally just sat down and I had a good cry. I did. I had a good cry. And I said, I just can't do it anymore. And as a result of having that real conversation with God and saying, like, Spirit, I just can't, I'm tired. Like, I asked for clarity. I asked to be shown, like, what was holding me back? What was keeping me from moving forward? And I was shown. I was shown the things within me, because understand, the people and relationships around you, they are a reflection of you. Okay. So I realized that I was, thank y'all, I realized that I was mirroring relationships that I had dealt with. And I finally just made a conscious decision and said, I'm not doing that anymore. And when I finally put that boundary, oh, thank you, Spirit. When I finally put that boundary up and said, this is it. I can't revisit this because of the mindset that it puts me in when I revisit it, because of the emotional place that it puts me in. When I finally made that commitment and put that boundary up with myself, it really prompted me to go more towards God. Y'all, I got heavy into like just research and studying, heavy into my connection with God. Fasting, abstaining from multiple things. I said this on another video. Abstaining from multiple things. Sex. For almost 2 years, I've been abstaining from sex. Alcohol. Like, I was like, okay, I'm not taking a single drink, and I haven't in several months. Or no, I guess it's been about a month and a half. I just said, okay, I'm cutting out any of these things, because see, alcohol was a vice for me. Old relationships were a vice for me. Like, I would find myself going back to these things in my periods of isolation and loneliness. So this time I just said, you know what? I'm not going to do it. And that is what prompted this spiritual awakening that that I'm coming out of now. And as a result of me putting myself into, because I feel like I put myself in the dark night of the soul. I put myself into hermit mode so I could learn about myself and really like strengthen my connection with God. So when you're going through a spiritual awakening, when you're going through, like, well, because you're going to go through your dark night first, you're going to have to look at the things, the limitations that you're putting on yourself, the things that you keep going back to that you know don't mean you know good, but we still go back to it, okay? Sit down with yourself as we're going into 2023. Sit down with yourself and ask God, ask Spirit, ask Spirit and them, ask your ancestors, your guides, for assistance with putting to bed those things, those cycles that keep on causing you discomfort and pain. Ask for assistance, okay? You got to pray about it. You got to chop it up with Spirit and be like, hey, I'm well and truly tired of this. So putting up boundaries with myself and deciding I'm not going back to the past anymore is what prompted my spiritual awakening. So y'all, I want to know, I want to communicate with y'all. What prompted your last spiritual awakening? What was it finally that was just like, you know what, that's it. I'm not doing this shit anymore. Okay? Let me know in the comments. And if this was helpful, even if it wasn't, make sure you like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel. Okay? What prompted your last spiritual awakening? For me, it was boundaries, but I'm better for it. Okay, love y'all in real life. Bye, y'all.